Hi, we are in KAVKA, Antwerp. We are Sunday 27th, and we are in the company of Sojourner. So I'll introduce you to the band, and I'll start with the member who's farthest from me. Here we go.
I'm Scotty, and I play bass.
I'm Emilio, and I do vocals and lyrics.
I'm Mike, and I do guitars, piano, and songwriting.
I'm Chloe. I do guitars, tin whistle, and vocals.
I am Ricardo. I am the drummer.
Okay, so that's the whole band we have here. So first of all, congrats with your signing to Napalm Records. What does that do to you? I'll ask.
Well, for us, it's a great step. We're definitely happy to take it and just see where it leads. In terms of expectations, we'll just see where it takes us. But we're really confident that this will be good for us, for sure.
Anyone else wants to add something?
We've listened to a lot of Napalm bands over, a lot of years, so it's a bit surreal, but I think it'll be really good for us.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any plans for re-releasing your first two albums, or isn't that in the can? Or
no. Actually, the first two albums are we're very close to avant-garde music, and since those two albums were released on avant-garde, they will remain as avant-garde music releases. So I mean, there are represses as we may need them and everything like that. So I mean, they'll always be in print. So it's not like they're going to sell out or anything. But
speaking of represses, I think it's like the 10th or 11th or 20th time the album has been repressed. So it's quite exceptional for a band. And these days you get so many. Your album is still going on, even the two albums after all those years. So it seems like you're still getting lots of exposure and lots of people are still discovering the band. So what's your impression? Who wants to answer this one? Chloe?
Yeah, I suppose since we started off very, very, very underground, and I think most people heard us to start with because we were uploaded onto the Light Fox channel, the atmospheric black metal albums. So I think we had a little flurry there, which was where our first little bit of interest came from. But then after that, I suppose, with things like the tour and playing live, I think little other pockets of people are starting to hear about us. So I suppose that's why we're able to keep pressing them. And yeah, hopefully Napalm will mean that will keep happening, and then that will be good for avant-garde music as well as for our future albums. So, yeah.
So, but it's your first tour at the moment. But even before you weren't touring, I suppose, or just small concerts or whatever.
Just a handful of festivals.
Okay, yeah. So, in a certain way, people who wanted to discover the band or who heard the band for the first time, they had to hear it from somebody else. It was like not you were really playing shows, and there wasn't that many press, but it went, like I've seen it. It went so fast. It's nearly unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was. Our main goal was just to make music that we love and that we are proud of and that we want to listen to as well. And I think we definitely did that. And then, of course, as time passed, we got to play our first live show, and then the thirst to play live was born. And so I think, what is it, like 11 months now, or 10 months even after our first show, here we are on our first tour. And it's really awesome.
Nothing to add. No. Okay, so the reactions on tour have, like you said, have been amazing. Were you somehow expecting this, or is it beyond imagination?
To be honest, I was kind of surprised by how many people have turned up to each show that kind of do know us. I expected it to be almost no one, especially because Harakiri and Draconian is such. So it has so much more experience than we are, and they've been around a lot longer. But it's kind of cool having all these people come up to you and say, I heard your album last week and I love it. I've bought both your CDs, and it's cool, slightly surreal feeling. Yeah. because we are still a very small band. So
Small in a certain way, but if you listen to the music, it's grand. I mean, it's a style which is okay. You could call it like avant-garde, black metal, or whatever, but it's so diverse. So where does that music come from? Which are your influences? How did you get or evolve into that sound? I mean, it's quite unique, if you ask me.
Well, I think we all have our own influences as far as, you know, what inspired us to do certain things within the band. Me, as a vocalist, for example, I have influences from all different types of metal, anywhere from doom to black death and stuff. But of course, for me, when I heard like Caladan Brood Echoes of Battle, that was a very beautiful and gorgeous album, and that kind of took me in that direction. But as well, Draconian is my favorite band, so I was also very inspired and influenced by that. So for me personally, it was just basically those two that really took me in that direction.
I mean, aside from the metal, we also have quite a bit of influence from soundtracks, like sort of ambient piano stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff from outside of metal, and I guess between me and Chloe, who have been writing music together for about 15 years, this is just what naturally comes out now, which just happens to be our sound. So,
for me, there's always a small attempt to bring some Lord of the Rings soundtrack in there, particularly, which is one of the reasons that we liked using the tin whistle, because there's the tin whistle in the opening track for the Fellowship of the Ring and that sort of Hobbiton theme that comes through. And it's so pretty and it's happy and it's sad at the same time, and I always want our music to sort of feel a little bit like that. So that's a big influence outside metal for me. Yeah. Okay.
For me, it feels like you could like become the Radiohead of metal. I mean, your sound is so diverse, and I'm like expecting the next album to be something completely different. Am I right or am I wrong?
I mean, I think the next album, I think you kind of know what to expect in a way from the previous two, but at the same time we're pushing it in a slightly more epic direction, slightly sadder, but not backwards towards empires, more forward into territory we haven't explored before. So I think it will sound quite different. Well, at the same time, I think in the same way that Empires and Shadowed Road sort of follow onto each other, it'll just feel like the next album in the continuum. But it will be different, yeah, for sure.
But rather a natural progress than a sudden shocking progress. Okay, that's an interruption. That happens. Let's see if he has something to add. You want to say something? No, go ahead. Thanks a lot. Okay, one question we always ask is, of course, we've talked about influences. What inspired you as a person, and which bands or which sounds made you start to play music? So I'll start with.
So growing up, I grew up in a house with my mum and dad who had very eclectic taste in music. Mostly my dad listening to things like anything from Beastie Boys to AC/DC, and my mum listening to Motown and things like that. So growing up, my taste eventually evolved from listening to pretty much everything to honing more into the sort of metal side of things, and just your typical sort of new metal age when I was around the year 2000, when like Linkin Park and stuff were coming out, and that music was what really inspired me to start playing music, and what talked to me the most, and just kind of grew from there. And it's at the point now where I'll listen to absolutely anything. If there's a song that I like, I'll jam it. So yeah.
For me, of course, being a guy born in the 90s, obviously I started to get very interested in music around the early, like late 90s, early 2000s. And that was around the era of course, nu metal and stuff. As he said, like Linkin Park and everything. And it was actually the singer of Linkin Park that made me want to start to like scream and do these vocals and everything. But then it progressed from there. Shortly after that, I moved on to more extreme genres and wanting to master all the different kinds of registers and stuff. So basically, that's just how it started for me, and I just took the ball and ran with it. And of course, nowadays, my my likings, so to speak, are very eclectic. I mean, I can like many things from film score soundtracks to piano and violin, and to metal, to many things. So yeah, that's kind of how it was for me.
For me, yeah, there's sort of same sort of metal and stuff Amelia was talking about, and I think the curveball influences would be things like the sort of late 80s goth rock, Fields of the Nephilim kind of thing. I really like shoegaze, stuff like Slow Dive and Low, stuff like that. And then probably, and this is probably going to be a little lame, like anime soundtracks, sort of that sort of piano, really specific to sort of anime and Japanese film. I think that's a big influence, definitely.
I first started playing guitar when I liked Sum 41 when I was 11, and I got the Does This Look Infected tab book, and I was so excited, so that was how I started playing guitar. Other than that, I mean, at the same time when I was young, I always had piano lessons and trumpet lessons because I was that cool. So I think sometimes the classical influences a little bit sort of pushed me to want to have piano in the music that we write now, and I think all the bands me and Mike have been in, we've always had some piano bits and some slightly symphonic parts. So as a teenager, I was really, really into Elevati as well, and I still am. So I think that was sort of a influence to be into the folk side of things before I got really into black metal. Yeah, I think that's me. Yeah.
The funny fact is that album is one of the first albums that I ever bought. I think I was 11. Yeah. And well, besides Sum 41, which was one of the main reasons why I started playing music, System of a Down and Linkin Park, and at the same time I was like 11, and I got into metal in that period of time with Carcass, Testament, Cannibal Corpse, and all those stuffs. So yeah, I think that, and I remember that I decided to play drums when I listened to I think it was Absolution from Muse. That record inspired me actually to get into drums.
Okay, that's quite diverse as influences, and well, I can only say congratulations, and it reflects in the music. It's now I understand why I hear so many different sounds, and I'm really curious what the future will bring for the band. So after this tour, what are the next plans?
Well, as soon as we get home, we need to finish 2 demos that we're working on. We have 1 complete demo for the new album, and 2 more in the works, which we need to send to Napalm around February. So yeah, it's basically just going to be getting on to writing so that we can then send it to Emilio and Ricardo to put the drums on and get the bass done. So yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a break from playing live for a few months and really get into writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, sorry, you will be touring in autumn or winter, or so no gigs in the summer then, or festivals?
Yeah, we have already in August we have a show in Portugal, and then as well in October at Atmosfest in the UK. But as there's a couple other things in the pipeline, but nothing confirmed yet, so there might be some more, but you'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. We're really curious, of course, but we'll see in a couple of weeks maybe what will be next. So I have to ask a last question. Which are your 3 favorite albums? That's Jan, our cameraman, who really wants to know this difficult question. So I'll start with you.
Okay, I think that in the end I got the 3 albums. The first one probably is gonna be Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from Iron Maiden. My second favorite album is the first album from Ensiferum, and the third one is still this album from System of a Down.
I feel like I needed a good week to think about this, but off the top of my head, having remembered my happy days learning Sum 41, I'm going to say, does this look infected by Sum 41? Because it is always good. Then maybe Evocation 1 by Elevati. And then I feel it should be something which actually reflects what I listen to now, so I'm going to say Exercises in Fertility by Mugwa.
I think this isn't in order. I couldn't order these, but I'm going to say Agalok's Pale Folklore. Midas Falls Wilderness and Fields of the Nephilim's Elysium, probably.
For me, it's going to be Draconian, Arcane Rainfell. Then after that would be Dumas with Dead Words Speak. And then in third place, Caladan Brood with Echoes of Battle.
Once again, in no particular order, I would say Licensed Ill by Beastie Boys, For Those Who Have Heart by Date Remember, and Maylene and the Sons of Disaster, self-titled, would be my 3.
Okay, thanks a lot. I wish you a pleasant and successful continuation of the tour, and I really hope to see you soon at one of the bigger festivals. I really hope one day I can watch you play Hellfest or Wacken or sort of or what?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I think so. I strongly believe you will be getting there. So thanks a lot for the interview, and I wish you all the best for the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.